I helped my best friend cover up a crime, and it's eating me alive every single day. This is a throwaway account because I can't risk anyone in my real life connecting this to me. Honestly, I just need to get this off my chest because the guilt is suffocating me. If you end up reading this, please be gentle. I know I'm a horrible person already. My best friend, I'll call him Nick, and I have been inseparable since we were kids. We're more like brothers. Nick has always been the one to have my back, no matter what. I never thought that loyalty would be tested in such a twisted way. About 8 months ago, on a cold Friday night in February, I was at home, half asleep in front of the TV, when my phone rang. It was Nick, and he was hysterical. I could barely make out what he was saying at first. Just sobbing, and my name over and over. I remember my heart dropping into my stomach. I thought he'd been hurt or something. I managed to calm him down enough to get a few words. Accident? Road? Please help me. I threw on my coat and drove as fast as I could to the location he gave me. It was a back road a few miles outside town, a place we sometimes took to avoid highway traffic. When I got there, I saw Nick's car pulled over on the side and him pacing in front of it. My adrenaline was through the roof. I almost crashed myself trying to pull in behind him. As soon as I got out, I could see the front of his car was smashed. The hood dented, one headlight completely busted. Nick ran up to me, hands shaking uncontrollably. He had this wild, desperate look in his eyes I'd never seen before, not even when his dad died years ago. He was babbling, saying, "I didn't see him in time, he came out of nowhere, oh God, oh God." I had to grab him by the shoulders and yell to get him to focus. "Nick, what happened? Where is the person? Did you call an ambulance?" He just shook his head frantically and pointed a few yards down the road. That's when I saw the body. A man lying on the gravel shoulder, not moving. My stomach churned and I felt like I might throw up. My head was spinning. I remember yelling something like, "Jesus, Nick, why didn't you call 911? But Nick was panicking, saying, I can't. I was drinking. They'll send me to prison." I could smell the alcohol on him. He must have had a few beers. Not completely wasted, but definitely not sober. I ran over to the man on the ground. In the glow of my car's headlights, I could see blood on his forehead, and his limbs were twisted at awful angles. I was afraid to touch him. My hands were shaking so bad. I kept hoping maybe he'd groan or move or something, but he didn't. I checked for a pulse in his neck like you see on TV. Nothing. I leaned down to listen for breathing. Nothing. He was dead. I remember I just sat back on my heels and stared at this poor guy, and then at my best friend, who was practically hyperventilating behind me. It felt unreal, like I was outside my own body watching this happen. I should have called the police right then. I should have made Nick face the consequences. If I had, maybe this man's family would have had answers. Maybe it wouldn't haunt me like it does. But in that moment, all I could think about was how Nick was begging me with tears in his eyes, how he kept saying, "Please, please, I can't go to jail, you have to help me. You're the only one I trust." I've never seen him so scared. He was terrified, and not just for himself. I think he truly couldn't process that he'd killed someone. I was terrified too. Terrified of what would happen if we did call the police. And also terrified of what would happen if we didn't. I felt frozen, like time had stopped, and every choice was the wrong one. What we did next, it still feels like a nightmare I can't wake up from. We decided to cover it up. I still hate myself for this. We were two panicked idiots, making the worst choice possible, but at the time it felt like there was no way back. Nick kept saying, "Help me move him. Let's just hide him. I can't get caught, please." I wanted to scream at him, but he was already trying to drag the body towards his car. He was sobbing and mumbling, "I'm sorry," over and over under his breath. My legs felt like lead, but I found myself going to the dead man's other side. I remember apologizing out loud to the man, like a crazy person. I'm so sorry," as we lifted him. He was maybe in his late 30s or 40s, looked like just a regular guy. He had a wedding ring on. That detail still burns in my brain. We laid him in Nick's trunk. My brain was screaming at me about how wrong this all was, but I was in autopilot, I think. Shock, maybe. I don't know. We didn't even know where to take him at first. Two idiots with a dead body in the trunk, driving around the outskirts of town. Nick kept gulping air like he was going to vomit, and I was gripping the door handle so hard my knuckles were white. I kept checking the mirrors, expecting flashing police lights any second. It was the most horrifying drive of my life. Eventually, we ended up near a wooded area off another side road. A place where people illegally dump garbage sometimes. Our town has a lot of old logging trails and spots like that. We knew this one from when we were teenagers sneaking out to drink. It's pretty remote. We stopped there, and under the cover of trees and darkness, we carried the man out of the trunk. I was crying by then, I think. I had tears streaming down my face, but I was mostly quiet, while Nick was making these broken whimpering sounds. The ground was semi-frozen. February in our area is still damn cold, which made digging a grave basically impossible. We didn't have a shovel anyway. In the end, we moved him into a ditch deep in the woods, covering him with some old branches and heaps of dead leaves. It felt horribly insufficient. I knew it was basically just leaving him there to be found eventually, but Nick was insistent that we had to hurry and get out before someone came by. We kept his phone and wallet. I guess the twisted logic was that if we took his ID, it would slow identification. God, typing that out makes me feel like absolute scum. Like, who the hell was I to deny this man an identity even in death? We ended up tossing his phone and wallet into a river that runs under a bridge on the way back to town. Nick threw them out the window while sobbing. I was gripping the steering wheel. I was driving now because Nick was in no shape to. My brain was on fire, screaming at me that every second of this was unbelievably wrong. When we finally got back, I pulled into my driveway and just sat there in silence. Dawn was starting to break. We hadn't said a word to each other for a long time. Nick was staring at nothing, eyes red and face pale as a ghost. I think we sat in my car for a good 10 minutes, completely silent, until I just said, "Go home. We need to pretend this never happened. We can't ever talk about it." He looked at me with this hollow expression and nodded. Then he whispered, "Thank you," with his voice all cracked and broken. I didn't say anything back. He got out and went to his car, and I watched him drive off to his apartment. The second he was gone, I absolutely lost it. I started sobbing into my steering wheel, shaking, probably the closest I've ever come to a nervous breakdown. I was convinced at any moment a police car would pull up behind me, having somehow tracked us, or that I'd imagined going home, and really we were still out there, and this was all some out-of-body hallucination. I don't know. It felt unreal, yet horrifyingly real at the same time. I barely slept after that. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that man's face. I saw his wedding ring shining in my flashlight. When I checked for a pulse, I wondered who he was, what kind of life he had, and how we just left him like garbage. The guilt is like a weight on my chest all the time. In the immediate aftermath, we did what we could to hide any trace of what happened. I tossed out the clothes and shoes I wore that night. They had blood and dirt on them. I drove to a dumpster behind a strip mall in the next county and dumped the bag, heart pounding the whole time. Nick, meanwhile, quietly got his car fixed within a couple of days. He replaced the busted headlight and had the dented hood repaired, paying cash at a garage well out of town. Seeing his car look normal again made me feel sick. It felt like we were erasing evidence of the crime, pretending it never happened. In the days that followed, there was a missing person report on the local news. His family, I won't go into details for privacy, was pleading for anyone who had seen him to come forward. I remember seeing his photo on TV, the same man we left in the woods, and I threw up in my kitchen sink. I kept hearing the words of his wife through the TV, saying he was a father of 2 and had been on his way home from work that night. That he always took the back road to avoid traffic. The same back road where Nick hit him, where we left him. I felt like the worst human being alive. I couldn't eat for days. Nick was a wreck too, though he tried to keep it together outwardly. I avoided him. At first, I was so angry and horrified by what we'd done. But after a couple days, he came over to my place. He actually got down on his knees and begged me not to turn him in. He was sobbing, saying he'd go to jail for life, that it would destroy his mom is sick, and he's her only support. He swore he'd never drink again, that he'd devote his life to making amends in whatever twisted way he could, just please, please don't tell anyone. I had never seen him like that. It broke me. I screamed at him. I called him a selfish idiot. I told him that because of him a family was broken and a man was dead. He just kept agreeing with me. He didn't fight back or defend himself at all. Seeing him so utterly broken and remorseful, I don't know. I told him to get off the floor and I just collapsed onto the couch. We sat there in silence for a long time. We made a pact that day. We'd take this to our graves. No one would ever know. We would try to move on and somehow live with ourselves. He promised me he'd straighten out his life so something like this would never happen again. In those moments, I wanted so badly to believe we could do it. Survive this secret. But it's not that simple. It's actually impossible. Because here I am, 8 months later, and I am nowhere near over it. Neither is Nick, not really. He quit drinking entirely, like he promised. He's been going to AA and therapy, and on the surface it looks like he's doing all the right things. But I can see the cracks. He has nightmares too. He told me he dreams about that night all the time. Sometimes he texts me at 3 a.m. just with, "I can't sleep." As for me, I'm a mess. I jump whenever there's a knock on my door, because I'm sure it's the police coming to finally arrest us. I can barely look my own mother in the eye, terrified she'll sense something's horribly wrong with me. I've grown distant from most of my friends. I feel like I'm living on borrowed time, and I hate myself more with every second that passes. About a month ago, the man's body was found. Some hikers in the woods came across what animals had left of him. It was all over the news. There was an investigation, of course, but I guess there were no immediate leads. The police said it looked like a hit and run and the victim had been moved, but they had no witnesses and no DNA. We were careful not to leave much, and animals, well. Watching that news report made me almost pass out. I was at work when I saw it on my phone, and I had to lock myself in the bathroom because I thought I would scream or something. I called Nick from that bathroom stall, whispering like a crazy person that they found him. He was silent for a long time, then just said, okay. like he was trying to convince himself it was fine. Then he told me we just have to stick to the story, that there's nothing linking it to us. He tried to reassure me, saying, "They don't know it's me, they don't know. It's gonna be okay." Hearing him say that made me realize how different we are handling it. He was scared too, I know he was, but he was in survival mode. And I was in guilt mode. Every day since then I wake up and check the news expecting to see security camera footage released or an arrest made. I flinch every time I see a police cruiser drive by. My nerves are shot. I'm constantly on the verge of tears or panic. This guilt, this fear, it's destroyed me. I haven't been able to talk to anyone about this, for obvious reasons. Nick and I only speak about it to each other in hushed tones when absolutely necessary, and even then, it's like we're both afraid to say too much. We're paranoid someone will overhear or that our phones are tapped or something. It's insane. I know we should have come forward that night. I know we should come forward now, even. That man's family deserves to know what happened. They deserve justice. Or at least closure. There's a part of me that wants to just walk into the police station and end this nightmare of secrecy. But then I see Nick, and how he's trying so hard to be better. And I think about his sick mom, and how going to prison would destroy everything for both of us. And I chicken out again. And then I hate myself even more for putting my own freedom above doing what's right. I don't know what to do. I'm living in a self-made hell of guilt and fear. I have flashbacks of that night at the most random times. I'll be at the grocery store and suddenly I see that guy's hand sticking out from under those leaves, or I'll be driving and break into a cold sweat thinking I see a flash of something on the road. This is torment. I feel like I'm on the verge of a breakdown every day, but I have to act normal to cover what we did, and the irony is not lost on me that I'm basically still covering up the crime, just in a different way. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening, I guess. I don't even know what I'm asking for here. Forgiveness? I probably don't deserve it. Advice? I'm too much of a coward to follow it anyway, probably. I think I just needed to finally tell the truth somewhere. Even if it's anonymously to internet strangers. Not a day goes by that I don't think of that man and his family. I wonder if I'll ever have the courage to do what's right. Until then, it haunts me. Every single day. Update. Posted by you, ThrowRA Haunted on October 20th, 2024 at 5:17 p.m. Hi everyone. I didn't think I'd be back here, but a lot has happened since my first post. First, I want to say thank you for the outpouring of support and advice. I was honestly expecting to be utterly roasted, and I probably deserve it. But many of you were surprisingly kind, or at least constructive. It means a lot to feel heard. Some of you had questions or advice that I want to address real quick. A lot of people asked why I didn't just call an ambulance or the cops when it happened. Trust me, I've asked myself the same thing every single day. The truth is, I panicked and made a horrible choice because I was trying to protect my friend. It wasn't rational or right. It was pure fear. Others suggested I turn myself and Nick in anonymously or something. Believe me, I've considered it a million times. I'm just terrified of what will happen to us if I do, especially since I'm just as guilty for the cover-up. Anyway, on to the update of what's been happening. It's been about 2 weeks since I posted, and things have escalated. The investigation into the hit and run has been picking up steam. Last week, a detective actually came by Nick's apartment to ask about the hit and run. They apparently found a broken headlight piece at the scene and traced it to the type of car Nick drives, so now they're interviewing all owners of that model in our area. Of course, Nick's on that list. The detective asked Nick point blank if he'd been in that area the night of the accident. Nick told him he wasn't, that he had been home alone. Stupid alibi, but he panicked. He also preemptively mentioned that he'd heard about the hit and run on the news, and that coincidentally, he had a minor fender bender with a deer a while back, which is why he had recently replaced a headlight. He actually prepared that lie months ago when he got the car fixed, just in case anyone noticed. The detective apparently didn't accuse him outright or anything, just took notes and thanked him for his time, but didn't seem totally convinced. He left Nick his card and told him to call if he remembers anything about that night. When Nick was telling me all this over the phone, I could hear the sheer terror in his voice. I was shaking too. This was like our worst fear coming true, the police sniffing around, looking directly at him. We both knew that if they dig even a little, things could fall apart. Maybe they find a witness, or a traffic camera catches part of Nick's license plate, or they pull our phone records showing I was there. My mind is in full worst-case scenario mode. After that detective visit, Nick went into full-blown panic mode. He basically said, "I can't stick around waiting for them to build a case. I need to get out of here." He started talking about running, as in packing up and leaving the state, maybe even the country, and just disappearing for a while until things cool down. My heart sank hearing that. The thought of abandoning our lives and becoming fugitives is terrifying, but so is spending years in prison. Nick was adamant. He told me he's liquidating some of his savings and looking into leaving within days, a week at most. He begged me to come with him. He said, "I can't do this without you, man. If we split up, they'll come after whichever one of us stays. We have to stick together." The way he said it, It felt less like a heartfelt plea and more like I'm tied to him whether I like it or not. Like if I don't go, I'm screwing him over. I told him I needed to think. He kept pushing, saying that every day we stay is a risk, and that maybe in a few years we can come back when it's blown over. I'm not naive. A fatal hit and run doesn't just blow over. If they don't catch us now, this will hang over us forever. I asked him what about his mom, and he went quiet. Then he said he'll figure something out for her from afar, that maybe she can sell the house and move in with his aunt in another state, and he'll secretly send money. He was rambling, clearly not thinking straight, just desperate to escape. When I got off the phone with Nick, I just sat on my kitchen floor and bawled. I'm so damn tired of being scared. These past 2 weeks after my first post, I had actually been feeling a tiny sliver of relief just having confessed anonymously. Some of you guys honestly helped me see that as much as I want to protect my friend, what we did was horribly wrong. I mean, I knew that, but I was burying the full reality of it. I even tried one suggestion, writing a letter to the victim's family, unsent, of course, to express my remorse. It was oddly cathartic to put it in words. Now with Nick ready to bolt, I feel like I'm right back in panic mode. Part of me wonders if this is my chance. Like if he runs and I stay, maybe I could finally do the right thing and confess after he's gone. But then I imagine him getting caught wherever he runs to, and him thinking I betrayed him by not going along, and then what if he tells the cops I was involved too? Not that it absolves me if he doesn't mention me, I'm already in this deep. I haven't made a decision yet. Nick is pushing me for an answer because he wants to leave really soon. I told him I needed a couple days. He grudgingly agreed, but each call since he sounded more frantic. I'm honestly scared. Scared of running, scared of staying, scared of what Nick might do if I choose differently than him. I wish I had a neat ending for this update, but I don't. I'm stuck at a crossroads, and every path feels like doom. I'll update again when I have something significant to share. I just know I can't live like this much longer, and maybe that's pushing me toward doing something definitive, one way or another. Right now, I'm just trying to keep it together and make it through each day without completely losing it. I'll post again when I figure out my next step. Thank you again to everyone for listening. Update 2, final, posted by you, Throw RA Haunted, on November 2nd, 2024 at 11:45 a.m. I never wanted to make this update, but here I am. This will likely be my final post. I'm shaking as I write this, so please forgive any typos. Things went downhill fast after my last update. A few days after I wrote it, Nick showed up at my place without warning. He looked terrible, like he hadn't slept in days. I doubt either of us had. I could see his car parked out front, trunk stuffed full, so I knew he was really going through with running. He came inside, pacing like a caged animal, and said, "I'm leaving tonight. You coming or not?" I told him I wasn't ready, that I needed more time to think. That was a lie. By then, I'd made up my mind. I wasn't going. What Nick didn't know is that earlier that day I'd finally worked up the courage to do something. After agonizing about it, I had called that detective who came to his apartment. I used the business card Nick gave me. I didn't outright confess everything on the phone, but I told the detective that my friend Nick was the person they were looking for in the hit and run, and that he was planning to flee. The detective was stunned, but I begged him to come that evening and that I would explain everything. I was shaking so hard making that call that I almost hung up, but I didn't. I think I knew I was signing my own fate as well. So when Nick showed up, I knew it was only a matter of time before the police arrived. I was secretly texting the detective updates like, "He's here." I was scared out of my mind, both of Nick and of what was about to happen. I tried to stay calm and keep Nick talking, hoping to delay him until the cops got there. But Nick was on edge and pressed me hard. He kept saying we needed to leave now. I tried to stall, saying I hadn't packed, that I needed just a little more time. He saw right through me. His eyes were wild, and suddenly he got this look. I'll never forget it. He said, "You called them, didn't you?" My heart just about stopped. I guess I wasn't as subtle as I thought, or maybe he was just paranoid and guessed. I denied it, but he was already pulling a gun out of his jacket. Yes, he brought a gun. I had no idea he had one until I saw it in his hand. He didn't point it at me right away. He was just holding it, waving it as he yelled. "I thought I could trust you. After everything you're going to ****ing betray me?" he screamed. He rarely swore like that before. It was terrifying. I backed up with my hands in the air, absolutely sure he was going to shoot me. I stammered that I didn't call anyone, but he was beyond listening. He started ranting, voice breaking, saying stuff like, "I won't go to jail, I won't," and "We were in this together." The moment he actually raised the gun toward me, there was this explosion of noise. My front door crashed open, and cops were shouting, "Police, drop the weapon!" It was like something out of a movie, but horrifyingly real. Everything happened in a split second, though it feels like slow motion in my head. Nick spun toward the door with the gun. I screamed, "No!" I don't know if I was screaming at him or the police or just into the void. And then, they shot him. They fired, and Nick went down, hard. I remember screaming and dropping to the floor. For a second, I think I actually blacked out, or maybe I just can't piece together the exact moments after. The next thing I knew, 2 officers were dragging me away from where Nick was sprawled. There was blood. So much blood on my living room floor. They pulled me outside. I was in complete hysterics, shouting that he needed help. Paramedics came and rushed him away. He was still alive when they took him out. I saw him barely moving, gasping. At the police station, I spent hours giving a statement. I told them everything. Once I started talking, I couldn't stop. I ugly cried through the whole confession. The accident, covering it up, the months of guilt, all of it. Part of me expected them to immediately slap cuffs on me and throw me in a cell. They did handcuff me at first, but later they just let me sit alone in an interrogation room for what felt like forever. Eventually, the detective, the same one from before, told me that Nick was in critical condition at the hospital. A bullet hit him in the chest and another in his shoulder. They had to take him into surgery. I was numb. I think I still am. They released me that night, surprisingly. I guess technically I wasn't under arrest yet. The detective said something about how my cooperation would be taken into account, but that we would talk again soon. I was allowed to go home, though I'm pretty sure they're keeping tabs on me. Maybe they think I won't run now that I've confessed. They're right. I'm done running. So here I am, at home, in the aftermath. My front door is busted and the floor is stained where my best friend bled. I'm just broken. I've been informed that Nick survived the surgery, but he's still unconscious. If he lives, he'll face a ton of charges. And so will I. I'm fully expecting to be charged with a laundry list of crimes, at the very least being an accessory and tampering with evidence, if not worse. I have no idea what's going to happen to me, legally or otherwise. I feel like in trying to save us from our horrible mistake, I ended up destroying us anyway. 2 families are ruined. The victims, and now Nick's, and maybe mine. Nick might not even make it. I can't get the image of him lying in his own blood out of my head. He was my best friend since we were kids, and I basically signed his death warrant by calling the cops. I know logically that his choices led to that moment, but it still feels like a nightmare version of betrayal and guilt, all mixed together. I haven't been able to bring myself to contact his mom. She doesn't even know the full truth yet, as far as I'm aware. I did make one phone call, though. I called the detective and asked him to please reach out to the family of the man who was killed and tell them what really happened, if they haven't been told already. He said they would be notified. I suppose eventually there will be a trial or something, and it'll all come out. Maybe they'll hear it on the news. I needed them to know, finally. So that's where things are now. I'm out on some kind of unofficial bail or whatever, waiting for the hammer to fall. I'm relieved the truth is out, but I'm also shattered by how it all went down. This wasn't how I wanted it to end, but at least that man's family can get some closure now, and Nick and I aren't hiding anymore.